Going, and we're live.
Jazz hands.
Yes,
Good morning.
Good morning. How are
So
you, Tara?
good. I just want to give a review,
Oh,
real
getting started right off the bat. Yeah, go.
gadget review.
Okay.
I bought a milk frother,
Oh, this is-
thinking I would make tea lattes, so
uh-huh.
I would amp my milk game
Oh,
because it was
yeah.
looking kind of sad.
Yeah.
Just pouring some hemp milk into tea. This was
Yeah.
looking kind of sad. So I bought this milk frother at the estate sale place. Still never opened. Still in the box. And I have to say mixed review because it's like
Ooh.
I whipped it into peaks, so it doesn't move. It's not like fluid.
It
It's like,
looks like you've basically made whipped cream that is
yeah.
on top of your tea.
So it's not like frothing into my tea. So
Yeah.
if anybody has any tips on
Milk
maybe
froth.
there's a different setting on my frother because now
Mm.
there's like froth and then there's hot tea under it.
Mm.
And I did see on a girl's vlog yesterday, she had one of those little handheld frothers. After she made her milk, she then blended it with
Yes.
her coffee. So I
Yeah.
just tried that with a fork, and I would say 0 success. So
Mm.
now I have froth, and then you're like, try to drink it, and then all of a sudden there's like hot tea that comes back. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
well,
So yeah.
that's a dilemma.
So good morning. If you're joining us, tell us where you're watching from. This is Coffee Chat. I'm Tara. That's Rachel, and we are Steady State Network. And it's Friday.
It's Friday, and every morning for months, possibly over a year, I think, more than a year, we have been doing this coffee chat on Friday mornings. It's our virtual version of a post-practice hangout with teammates. It kind of got born out of COVID and our really missing being with our teammates at the boathouse. And then I don't know about how many of you, but Tara and I used to hang out with our teammates either in the parking lot or go to a coffee shop, and we would then rehash the entire practice. And we really missed doing that during COVID, so we started Coffee Chat, and now we do it online. And we welcome your comments and want to know what's going on in your rowing world.
Yeah. So a special shout out. We had a couple of new Patreons come into our land. We do have some Patreons who are awesome. Thank you. And our new one, who's our latest?
Our latest is Lizzie Simons, and thank you so much. It's been a good few weeks. We've picked up a few new patrons, and we're really appreciative. If you're interested, patreon.com/steady state network. You can come in at like as low as $5 a month and check out what our different levels are, and really what patrons do for us. It helps us not just with Coffee Chat, but run really our podcast, which comes out every 2 weeks, and will help us in the fall re-energize our scholarship program and get some folks going to U.S. Rowing Convention as well in the fall. So anywho, that's our pitch for that. But Lisa Wise is with us this morning. Good morning, Lisa.
So Lisa's asking for best favorite new rowers drill. That's a good one. I think you're just developing boat feel. Like, how do you develop boat feel? Like, connect technique and order of operations is one thing, but so I like to do 5 and glide races against boats, and just have them take 5 strokes, and then they learn where their hands go out to, and then they try and see who wins. So it's a little bit of a game, it's a little bit of a competition, and they also learn hand height and boat feel.
Yeah.
Rachel?
Yeah, I have a bunch. I don't think that they're anything fancy or anything you haven't already thought of, Lisa. I like the real basic stuff, like the chop drill from the finish to get them used to how little pressure needs to be put on the handle to get the blade in and out of the water. Chop drills, and then finish to catch drills. So sitting at the finish, tap down, clear, hands away, clear the water, slowly roll up to the catch and drop it in.
Yeah.
That lets you break down the entire stroke, tap, hands, rock, slow roll up to the catch, catch. And then maybe add catch drive, but it's literally one stroke at a time. I really love that for breaking everything down. And I will do that several times by pairs, by fours, by sixes, and talk with each rower about what I see happening basically every time.
Yeah, I mean, I like that drill for beginners because it's progressive drill. You can
Mhm.
start with just tap down at the finish, try and do that in sync and get the blade height correct, and then
Yeah,
you can add bodies over, right?
yeah.
Or then you can add hands away, or you can add hands away, bodies over, and quarter slide and
Mm,
stop. You can stop them sort of at any point in the drill. And you asked me before we went on about places to naturally pause in the stroke, and that being the finish, and the finish being an opportunity to gather your thoughts, if you will.
mhm,
We've just been talking about this on our from our Coxing about using that moment at the finish when you come around to actually manage your ratio.
mhm.
Instead of, when you start to get like windshield wiper, right?
Yeah.
Use that moment to and then go. But
Yeah, yeah.
but some people take it too literally and they stop. So I had a stroke a few weeks ago, who's a very accomplished rower. And when we were at the lower rates, probably like 22 and lower, she would literally stop, like boom,
Mhm,
and go.
mhm.
Boom, and go. And I was like, "Oh my god, are we gonna do this at 24, 26, 28?"
Yeah.
I've never seen that. But I think how sometimes strokes, like, take it upon themselves to try and teach everyone a lesson?
Oh, yeah, 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 big pause at
Whoa.
the finish, like, "Do not rush me." Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, back off,
Yeah.
I've done it before as a stroke. Made a drastic ratio change, or made not a drastic ratio change, but it made a ratio change where sometimes you
And
can.
everyone else is like,
Yeah, it's like dominoes. Yeah, I'm 5 seat in this 8, and I have been for months, or a couple months, and, I have 2 less experienced rowers behind me, and by less experienced, I just mean, like, they haven't been doing it for 10 years. Like,
Sure.
they've been doing it for, like, 5 years, which to me is not less experienced, but I don't know. We can talk about that too. Masters rowers who deprecate and self-deprecate at practice continually
Mm,
about themselves being weak or new,
mm,
or I'm just learning, and they've
mm.
been doing it for more than 6 months, like, stop.
Y
And
Yeah.
and while we're rowing.
Yeah, I think you just need to leave that conversation out. Like, you just need to move on. You're not helping yourself, and you're not helping your teammates have confidence in you. There's one woman I can think of that I rowed with last year who to this day, every time I see her, I'm not even rowing with her this year, but when I see her on the dock about to go out, she always has something self-deprecating to say. And I'm like, just that just feeds into how you think about yourself and how you choose to row that day. Like, instead of saying I'm the weak one in the boat, like, step up.
Or at
Step,
least just say, "I'm doing my
I'm
best."
doing my best today.
End of hard stop.
Yeah.
Not "but," or
Yeah.
"because," or "at least," or some bullshit.
Mm,
Like, I can't I can only high five you so much and tell you that you're a beast so much, or try and, like, whatever. Because and the downside of people who do that self-deprecating stuff is if there's one person in the boat who's a control freak, one person, they will exploit and capitalize on that. And that's what's happening. Our
mm,
bow is coaching 3 and 4 seat from the bow,
mhm.
from the bow during a race piece,
Yeah.
thinking that's helpful. And they're like, "Oh, thank you. Like, we don't really know." And I'm like, "No, you do know. I've seen the video. You do know."
Yeah.
Like, maybe, but that's just like how people are sometimes. They just feel more comfortable being in that um position for some, I don't know. It's a self-esteem thing. It's a confidence thing.
I
I
think
don't
it's self-esteem, it's confidence. I think if there are rowers in your boat who do have less experience, and I don't know what the situation is in that particular lineup you're talking about, but I've been in plenty of boats with rowers who have less experience than me, especially now, like I have so much, like 20 years of rowing experience. Rowers will say, like some rowers will ask me, for my opinion, but what I try to do is ask them first if they would like some feedback. And if they don't, then I'm like, that's fine. They're on their own today. Or I might say, can I offer you this one suggestion? And then, like, basically, that's that for the rest of practice.
Right, but like, and everybody learns differently. And the thing that I think people like who are really hard on themselves, assume that everyone else isn't,
Mm,
and that they're the ones that have the hardest time, and they're the ones that have
mm,
the most struggle.
mm.
I constantly am just thinking about not hearing from the coxswain, like, please don't say anything to me, because I've been having an issue with rushing the top quarter.
Oh, yeah. So you want to fix that thing that you're working on, and your
Right.
goal is for the coxswain not to call you out on it. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
because she's pretty, like, repetitive about it, like, "Tara, too quick. Tara, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it." And I'm like, "I'm tired of
Oh,
hearing from you. I'm tired of
you
hearing from
know,
you." Like, I
you,
don't learn that
yeah,
way, but I'm glad you're telling me.
yeah.
But these 2 behind me think that we have it all figured out, that we're all good, that, and, like, they don't appreciate that this is a journey. They think there's some outcome
Yeah.
that they haven't gotten to, and in
Yeah.
fact, they were able to power a very fast split in a boat yesterday. Whoa, what is that comment off of YouTube?
I'm not sure what that comment is on YouTube, and I'm not sure why it matters to this conversation. Um,
I don't think it's real.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll delete that. But everybody's learning that, like rowing is a constant journey, and there's no, like, stop, and there's no hard stop, because the weather is always gonna be different, the waters can be different, the people, the vibe, the course. So I don't know that they've really latched onto that part of this journey, that
The
they've, like,
coxswains
no,
or
the rowers behind
oh,
me haven't sort of latched onto the fact that you never really get it right, a whole bunch.
mm,
Lisa Wise says, "I met an amazing 81-year-old rower yesterday who started rowing the same year I did. She's a rock star and cruises around in a single."
that's fantastic. So 2 80-year-old rowers in singles are inspiring. They are super inspiring, Lisa. Thank you for telling us about them. Tara and I actually were just talking about possibly pulling together like a roundtable for a podcast episode, specifically talking with rowers, older rowers. We hadn't like set an age range, but in my mind, I'm thinking like 70 to 80 plus, because it's a
Mhm.
whole different experience. And you're
But in
coming
my
at your rowing at a different point in your life and a different understanding of what the body does and what you're capable of. And um, so keep in tune. We might pull off that episode in the next few months. I think it would be a really different feeling of an episode. I think, yeah, there's so we just had this conversation with a 70 something year old woman, Kathy Frederick. She's going to be our next podcast episode. She's the founder of Row for the Cure. And, this may not be true, and it's probably not true of all older people in general, but the pacing of the conversation was different, right? And Tara and I, being kind of our personalities and just general excitement level kind of up here, and we needed to like tamp it down a little bit, and I think that would be the same. But anyway, I think it'd be a fascinating conversation to talk to some older rowers, and I know Tara, you've been really interested in this topic for a long time.
Yeah, rowing and aging. Yeah, I ran a rowing and aging project years ago. I was coaching seniors. So I used to coach a group of folks at a 9 o'clock class at the Parks Department in Seattle. And they were called the midday rowers because 9 o'clock is midday for rowers, right? And so I would row at 6, go home, or 5, and go home, come back. And they were no younger than 60, and the oldest I think was 82. And they were all kinds of range of ability, all kinds of range of motion. One guy would show up in this t-shirt. He had long, stringy white hair, long white beard, and he would show up in this nice big dad bod, right? But he was probably 70, and he would show up in a t-shirt and cargo shorts with a belt, and he always wore pink bite guards and like orthopedic shoes. And he was fantastic. He was fantastic. And his name was Arthur, and he was British, and he was actually like an Einstein. Like, he was super smart. Like, he would come up with something fancy. But we had people who had spinal stenosis. We had people who had strokes, people who had Parkinson's, people who had heart attacks, brain injuries. I mean, all kinds of things had happened to these bodies. They were all beautiful, beautiful people.
Yeah.
And I have a really wonderful photograph that I should find and share with you. It was going to be the cover shot of the big goal was to write a book. And so what I did was I created a rowing and aging survey that went out around the world, and I got over 120 responses to it. And one of the questions I asked in it was, how long have you been rowing? When did you start rowing? All that kind of stuff. But one of the questions I asked was, what do you need to keep rowing?
Yeah.
And then, of course, I asked, describe the perfect stroke. And what was interesting about this was, of course, if they were born male, they likely started rowing when they were like 11 or 12, right? Because boys rowing all over the world has existed quite a bit longer, the women's rowing. And then the women rowers tended to be women who started in their 40s when their kids went off to college or could get themselves up for breakfast or whatever it was. Yeah. And they would start in their midlife. And there was also an interesting split of camps of perfect stroke stuff. So there was a camp of it's possible and it's not possible. There were literally people who were like, not going to happen.
Never going to happen.
Yes, it could happen. And then within the people who thought it could happen, there was two schools of thought. There was either a very philosophical school of thought, very romantic philosophical school of thought, or a very, 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 very technical. There was one guy who wrote me angles, degrees, velocity. He wrote the whole thing out, this whole formula of like, this is what makes a perfect stroke. And then there were people who are like, it's like flying.
It's like flying, right? You start talking about what you hear, feel, and see.
They're beautiful responses. I dig that back up. I had so many.
I know you've told me about that before. I would love to see some of those responses.
Yeah, and I had them all submit a photograph of themselves.
Oh, neat.
So I have tons of content, just not tons of time.
All right. Well, we got to do something with this because you keep telling me about it, and it sounds so interesting, and I know that other people would be interested in it too. So,
World Rowing Masters, was that next?
Yes, the World Rowing Masters Regatta happening now. It started on the 7th, ends on the 11th. It's somewhere in France. I don't remember exactly where, but it's happening in France right now. And to me, World Rowing Masters Regatta is this thing that happens over there, like once a year. It's never, well, I shouldn't say never. As far as I've been paying attention, I'm not sure if it's happened in the United States. It's always in some fancy European locale. And I know a couple of people who are there right now participating. But, when I think about, first of all, rowing in general, right? We all know rowing in general, you really do need to have a certain amount of money in your pocket to be able to participate. I think that's changing to a certain degree, but certainly as an adult, you need to have some spending money to be able to participate and travel, especially to travel to regattas. And then if you are here in the US and you want to go US Masters Nationals, that's like the next level up. Am I willing to spend my hard-earned money and vacation days from work to go to Masters Nationals for 5-6 days?
Right.
Then there's World Rowing Masters Regatta. And I've never been, and I honestly haven't talked to a whole lot of people about it, but it seems to me that that's like 3 more levels up where you're probably retired and or you've got a big chunk of change that you can travel across the pond, be there for a week, probably
Right.
padding some time on either side.
Right, or that's like your like,
Yeah,
that's become your head of the Charles, like,
yeah.
that's your thing. I have to say, I'm looking at the website for 2023,
Mm,
and it's in, South Africa,
ooh,
and it
interesting.
looks absolutely stunning.
Yeah,
I mean, it wow, wow. I mean, just even the photos alone, it's at a place called Rue de Plata Dam,
mhm,
and in Schwane,
okay.
and I mean, I think people probably look at it years in advance and say, "Oh,
Yeah,
it's in South Africa in 2 years, like, I'll plan that." But at the same time, like, these kind of Masters International regattas or Masters Nationals regattas, it's really just about who can pay and show up and
yeah,
be there,
yep,
right? It's
yeah,
not like there's a qualifying
right,
event and then they're sponsored and paid to go to represent the qualifier, the US being one, or your club or something. It's really about who can afford it
yeah, and
at
I
the end of the day, or who makes it a priority. I'll say it that way. Not
yeah,
who can afford it, but who makes that a financial priority.
yeah, and the other piece of that, so I think, and I would really have to dig through, who's been in the last several years and who's participating this year. But I would think, and I'm making a big assumption here, that it's usually folks who are a bit older. And so I'm looking at the race schedule for this year's event. And there are A and B events, certainly A category events. I mean, those are the youngest rowers who are in their 20s. There seem to be not too many of those. There's
Right.
some Bs, but I'm seeing a lot of EFGHs, as well as on Wednesday, there was a men's I through M8,
M.
which had two entries. So that's 16 dudes who are what's I?
Yeah.
I is I should know the categories, but I didn't even know there was an M category. Like when did that happen? I think this is also fascinating that like rower people are
Yeah.
rowing so much later into life. Like I remember 20 years ago, I thought it capped out at like J. And
Yeah, no, I think,
now
um
yeah. So now I think they have a category. There are categories that push all the way to like the 90s, which is just fascinating. And knock on wood, we're all functioning enough to be rowing when we're 90 something.
well, on US
Um,
Rowing's website, it's only goes to K.
oh, so maybe this is an
Yeah.
international age categorization. So
Yeah.
what's K for US rowing?
It was
I think that's got to be like 80, 85
let's see. K is 85 and over.
and
So
over. Yeah,
LM,
yeah, yeah. Right? So that's got to be 90. So amazing that these folks are participating in World Rowing Masters Regatta.
mhm,
Uh, and
mhm.
there are a lot of DEF events. So those are folks who are close to retirement and newly retired and are able to travel. And you know what? And I'm not saying this in like a negative way at all. Good for everybody who's able to do that, and you have time and the finances and ability to travel. It's just interesting to me, like thinking about because in my mind, especially when I was a younger rower, like I thought of world rowing championships as you got to qualify, you've got to be the top of the heap. And I think for World Rowing Masters, like you said, it's can you afford to
Pay
get
to
there
play.
and can you prioritize it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just pay to play.
so, so that's happening right now. starting on the 18th of September, there's the World Rowing Championships, and that's a separate event where you do have to qualify and you qualify to represent your country. And we know someone who will be there, and that is Jasper Liu. He's going to be rowing in the men's lightweight double with his pair partner, Zach.
Yay.
And we talked to Jasper this summer about kind of his journey from walk-on in college to elite sculler, and he is now training at Texas Rowing Center, and not just training there, but he and a handful of other elite rowers literally set up shop down there and started their high performance training center, which is pretty awesome. And now they run that high performance training center. So they've got coaches, but they also do a lot of the fundraising so that they've got money coming in that allows them to train and travel. So curious to see how Zach and Jasper do in their lightweight double this coming week. We'll have to follow along.
Yeah, for sure. Do you know if that's being broadcast anywhere or live streamed? Maybe?
I don't know. I would guess it would be. I would check out the worldrowing.com and see. I think they do a lot of live streams, or if not live, then post broadcast. So
and speaking of World Rowing, we are going to be sort of sharing a book launch day.
Yeah.
Daniela Nakazlova, I always have this right here.
Nakazlova, yeah.
Yeah, she wrote this book a couple years ago, and then her most recent volume is called
Hidden Voices in Rowing.
Yeah. And she reached out to us at Study State and said, hey, do you want to share some media coverage on book launch day, which is September 23rd, and US Rowing or World Rowing is picking up that as well. So stay tuned. And I think we're going to be doing a giveaway at some point.
We're hoping to do a giveaway of her book. And also we're working on right now, putting together logistics and details, but hopefully we're going to have Daniela on with us that Friday, the 23rd. We'll have her on our coffee chat. So we're going to talk with her about her first book, her new book, and what's going on there in her world. She is actually in Czechoslovakia, was born, raised, and lives there now. And so she's got a little different perspective on some things, but feels the same way that Tara and I do about the stories that haven't been told from people you may not have heard of before. So I'm looking forward to finding out who she has interviewed for this new book.
Yeah, for sure. I think she sent us a PDF copy of it. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
She did, yeah. I haven't had a chance to look all the way through it yet either, but she was kind enough to send us kind of a sneak peek.
But one of the people that she talked to was one of the people who work with Pete and Dick Dreissigacker from Concept 2. Mm-hmm. And so shout out to Pete and Dick for being on the podcast. It's a new episode, came out last Saturday. Mm-hmm. And thanks to Concept 2 and Lake Washington Rowing Club for being sponsors of Study State Podcast. It's really great. And earlier in the show, when I don't know if we had anybody on, but we thanked our Patreons and did a nice pitch for the Patreon. So rewind.
Yeah. So here's the thing. We kind of ran real fast through something that I wanted to talk about. We started talking about coxing a smidge, and I know we only have a few minutes left today, but we have talked in the past a whole lot about kind of in passing about good coxing versus bad coxing, like things that we can't stand hearing from coxswains in the boat when we're rowing. And if you guys have suggestions and ideas and opinions about things you can't stand hearing coxswains say, let us know. Drop it in the comments or shoot us a message. I wanted to take it one step farther and not just talk about, oh man, I really can't stand it when a coxswain says, I know you're tired, but okay, just no, like tired should not be in the coxswain's vocabulary.
Yeah, she did that during a head race.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about a coxswain and their job from the time we gather as a crew and get hands-on to launch to the start line. we don't need to talk today about what happens from the start line to the finish line, but the coxswain's role in being efficient and effective in getting the crew together and getting them to the start line.
Yeah. So,
And
yeah, I have had the experience, as have many people, of an overconfident coxswain who got us to the start line late, or
mhm.
we missed the race because they were overconfident, or they ran too much of a warm up, or they just wouldn't listen. Or, but I've also had the situation where they did have it totally under control, but everyone else had the race jitters in the boat and were yelling at the coxswain and wasting
Oh,
energy and not trusting that the coxswain had it together.
yeah.
I think the linchpin to the success of this is handwritten notes, or write it on your arm, your event number, your bow number, your lane number, whatever, start time, write it on your arm, and then write it on your stroke. It has to be in concert with the stroke. The stroke has to be like, oh, I think we're supposed to go over there. Okay, oh, that's the warm-up pattern. Okay, that's, okay, let's go ask that marshal. Like the stroke really has to be, or bow seat and a bow loader, they just really have to be like, hey guys, it's just us. The stroke is like the most knowledgeable person. That's who I'm going to rely on, because I've had boats where people are yelling, we're supposed to be over
Oh,
there, we're supposed to be over there, and it's race jitters, right? That's really fueling that, but maybe toxic in a pre-race situation.
yeah. So I'm glad that you mentioned like that relationship between the coxswain and the stroke. And I think we put a lot of pressure on our coxswains to be the ones in charge, and they should be. But there's also a relationship between the coxswain and the stroke needs to be on the same page as the coxswain. And everyone in the boat should know what a warm-up plan is and be on the same page in terms of executing that warm-up plan. So
Right.
this is
And
on this
sorry, just
go
one
ahead.
more thing. And the coxswain's voice tone during this whole period is really critical, because they
Yeah.
can create a ripple effect in the boat. If they start getting shrill and they start getting
Mhm.
like excited or saying dumb things, they need to be like on script, what we
Yeah.
practice. Don't pull out too many new things, especially before the race. Like, easy surprises during a race, absolutely, but no, like, "Hey, guys, we're gonna try this new drill to warm up." No,
Yeah. Yeah.
Same, like, routine. These are grown-ups you're dealing with. Grown-ups do not
Yeah.
like that. Like, they don't like that. And then just the changing in voice, and if they have to, like, be shrill or yell to a marshal, hover the microphone.
Mhm.
Like, that's like, "Hey, we're all like, "Ah,"
Yeah, blowing out the eardrums.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, just
Yeah.
so, like,
So a couple
their tone stays level.
Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to row, not here, and I was visiting a club that shall remain nameless, and the coxswains shall remain nameless. But I was able to get in a couple different boats with a couple of coxswains I'd never worked with before, and one of them was not confident. And from the time we shoved off, this was the coxswain. Hey guys, and she was in a bowler. We were in a bowler. Okay, guys, we're gonna, I think we'll, yeah, can you could you please take a like that was how she talked the entire time. She had no, it seemed like she didn't know what she was doing. I'm sure
Right.
she had coxed before because the coach put her in and sent us out, but she did not make me confident in her abilities. And then on the flip side, I had a chance to go out with a very, very confident coxswain, uber
Yeah.
confident, so confident that she just talked the entire time.
Oh, so
We
she's
met,
nervous too. So she's like
she may
chitter
have
chatter.
been nervous. I think she was nervous about like impressing us. Um, we got hands on when we were supposed to for launching for a race,
Right.
and we had 40 minutes to get to the start line of a 1K race. And we
That's
were
not a lot of
late to the, and we, 40 minutes was a ton of time. We could have gotten there easily, but there was so much talking and so much like explaining what was going to happen. And then once we were out on the course, she decided that we were like, she just decided we were going to be late. And so she decided to stop and like talk to all the officials along the way. and like say, hey, can you call up to the start line and let them know we're like basically she just installed all of these points where she was wasting time, and ran some really, like you were saying, ran some really weird drills none of us had ever done before, and they weren't anything that we had talked about doing as part of the warm up. They weren't
Right.
helpful, they weren't beneficial. um, Long story short, it was just 40 minutes from launch to start line of constant talking. I actually stopped listening to her because I just didn't know what she was trying to do anymore.
Mm.
Um, and that carried over to the race. Start 5, high, whatever. I couldn't tell you what she said the rest of the race because it was just a stream of consciousness.
Wow.
So, all this to say that going back to something you said, if you're a coxswain, boil it all down. Talk to your rowers in simple, clear terms. Have a plan, have a strategy, stick to it. Know how long it's going to take you to get through your warm up, how much time you have to sit at the start line before a race starts, and don't make excuses. Just
Yeah.
pull it off. We're all counting on you to make it happen. And it sets the tone
Right.
for the entire road to the start line and then sets the tone for the race. So I could go on and on and on about how we do this effectively, but it was just top of mind because this just happened to me a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I think we all have had those experiences where, I went to the Charles one year with a 15-year-old coxswain
Ooh.
who had never done it before. But this kid was so talented and so she had studied and studied and studied and studied and studied and asked our longtime coxswain what the experience was like and what to watch out for. She had done her homework, but we were still like, we don't know what's going to happen to her. She's traveling. She's traveling without her family. She's being sort of chaperoned by one of the master's rowers and who brought her daughter, who's her friend, that kind of thing. And we get on the course and she did that thing that I love coxswains do. They take their voice and they lower it
Mm.
and they go, and now we're on the course,
Yeah,
like that kind of thing. Like, I love that. And she was phenomenal. Like, how do you, as a 14, 15-year-old, how do you motivate people who are more than twice your age,
sure.
who are nervous Nellies, who are control freaks? I mean, it takes a lot of chutzpah as a kid or
Yeah.
anybody really to get into a master's boat in Coxum because there's a
Yeah.
lot of CEOs in a master's boat. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people in charge, type A's.
Yeah. Actually, that reminded me about the last time I coxed the Charles. It was I guess, my fifth time down the course, and for whatever reason, I was getting like really nervous. And I was really studying my notes. I needed my alone time. I was like sitting underneath the trailer and looking at my notes and like doing the whole visualization from the basin to the finish line. And our team had this new to us coxswain. I think she was literally just there for the head of the Charles. I don't know how we found her. And she was a teenager. And she was like, I didn't study at all. She had not studied at all. And she was gonna go. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, this is gonna be a disaster. Like, how is this gonna be a good time for anybody? But you know what? They got back. We all got back. We finished our races, and everyone was like, she was amazing. So, maybe there's something to be said for naivete or just, and on the flip side, not overthinking things. Like, just go out and get down the course and be a good coxswain. So, I don't
Mhm.
know. Maybe the longer I do this, the more, maybe I'm too detail oriented.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you have to read your crew. You have to
yeah.
know your crew and you have to read your people. That was one thing that an old teammate of mine used to say is just know your audience. Like,
Hmm.
know your people. Make your team feel like you've connected with them, like you've made an effort to find out who they are, especially when you travel for a regatta. Like, I always worry about teams who travel for a regatta and they pick up a local coxswain.
Hmm.
like, how much bonding is there? How much
Mhm,
bonding is necessary to
mhm,
just, like, say, "Oh, she's got it," and then what if she doesn't? You don't know that person. You can't are you gonna yell at her? Are you gonna yell
mhm.
at them? You know, whoever they are. Um, but yeah, all good things, but it's gonna be okay. You're gonna do great. You're gonna be our coxswain for the Charles,
I
and
know, I'm
who's
so
your
excited.
who's your stroke?
I don't know,
It's on the
I
spreadsheet.
I don't know right now. I should know. A guy is our stroke, but I don't know off the top of my head who he is. I'm gonna meet him when we get to Boston on Thursday the 20th.
Can you also find out, like, what the rate's gonna be?
We'll
Because
talk about rate. I'm assuming for a mixed eight that's never rode together, I'd probably say 28. I, I, I don't know. I'll talk to the crew and see where everybody's been racing, but a 5K, I'd rather just settle in long and strong and we're not.
and then if it comes up, like, go ahead
Yeah.
and do a power 10 at,
Yeah.
you know
We're also doing the director's challenge race, so I it's not like we're trying to make top half for an automatic entry for next year, so we don't have to crank down the course at a 36. This can be a long, well put together race. And I mean long as in length of the stroke, not a 45-minute paddle down the course.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but I am looking forward to it. It's 6 weeks from now, and we're all making plans. And yeah, actually, if any of you who are watching are going to be in Boston for Head of the Charles, Tara and I are going to be there Thursday through Monday. We've got a lot of time, although we'll be busy, but we will have a lot of time on Saturday in Boston. And our plans right now are basically to be walking the entire length of the course at least once, from the falls to the base and back, checking out what's going on and doing kind of race reports along the way. So we'd love to see folks and talk to you about your weekend in Boston and maybe grab some coffee together.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about this, I know we have to end, but, we didn't talk about this, but, fall training.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I am in a world of hurt right now
Yeah.
because I went to my new, circuit type of class,
Yeah.
yeah, the other day,
Mhm.
and it was, all squats all the time, barbell, goblet, back squat, front squat. Yeah, I literally cannot even, like, go 5 steps. Like, I'm in so much pain. Like, it's just the front, like, right over my knees, that part of
Mm,
my quads.
interesting.
It's like, when you really it's both. I went to bed last night having smeared a handful of BioFreeze on my
Oh,
leg.
that's good stuff. Yeah.
I was like, "I gotta take that and, like, 5 Advil."
Yeah.
Like
Oh, man.
and I'm supposed to go to the class tonight, but I can't on Fridays. I go out, I work on Fridays, but, I'm kinda
Yeah.
glad because I feel like I don't know if everybody else is as broken as I feel, but I'm unfortunately, that means I was doing it wrong, right? My ass should hurt, not my quads as much. My ass
Well, some quads. Yeah, the bum should probably have been engaged some. But what's fascinating, I think, is like when you shift from doing one sort of a workout to another, because you've been rowing a few days a week, so it's not like those legs haven't gotten a workout, but you went from a horizontal to a vertical press, and all of a sudden your legs are like, "What have you just done to me?" But
yeah,
I
and I
bet you know how this works. You're going to go to another class, and it's going to be easier, and the recuperation is going to be faster. And
well, for me, it's definitely like a personal challenge, like,
yeah,
don't put the weight on the barbell that you used to.
yeah,
Like, do the technique properly
yeah,
first, and it's
yeah,
okay if you look like a wuss, like, you don't have any weight on the barbell, it's fine,
yeah,
just do the bar, it's 35 pounds,
yes,
whatever, you
yeah,
know? It's just like my ego, I used to be such a worker outer, like, I
yeah,
just used to be so, like, strength training and weights, and I really love that once I get into it. I was actually really nervous before this class, and I'm in a
yeah.
group of women from I used to work out all the time, and then I had 2 kids, to I have never worked out a day in my life.
Hmm.
I can't believe that. These people are there's 2 people in there, and they're probably almost 50 years old.
Hmm.
never worked
Yeah.
out in their lives.
Yeah.
Never. How is that? That's amazing. I mean, I'm sure that's a great number of the population. I've just
Yeah, it
never,
really depends on
but
how what was your household like? What was important growing up as a kid? Or all sorts of things. We've talked to a lot of women who felt uncomfortable getting involved in athletics as kids. Or a lot of girls started something and then by the time they're 10, 11, 12, for whatever reason, stop playing whatever sport that they're involved with.
usually a
And
coach's comment at a wrong time or
yeah,
something about their
yeah.
body.
Yeah. But, I'm a little bit of the same place as you, where I just got back into swimming for the first time really since COVID. I used to swim several days a week, and then COVID hit, and I did not go to the pool. And I'm just getting back to it, and, like, I don't even bother looking at the timer clock. I don't care how long it takes me to get the length of the pool and back,
Yeah.
as long as I'm doing it. But the legs, because I like kicking with the board. But whew, it is like snail's pace right now. But you know what? It's
Yeah.
fine. It is totally fine. We're getting back into it. And one thing that you and I have talked a bunch about is this roller coaster. You got some peaks and valleys. And I think that right now you and I are working our way out of some valleys and trying to get reacquainted with some athletic uh well, just finding ourselves again, finding our athletic selves again.
Yeah. I mean, I'm dealing now with postmenopause and that's part of it, or I can't tell if I'm still peri or if I'm actually in it
Mm,
now. I can't tell. I have to do the math. But it's kind of amazing. And then now you talk about this with other women who've gone through menopause and they're like, oh yeah, they're like,
mm,
I packed on 50 pounds in a year and I was working out and I didn't change a thing and my hormones went,
mm.
or
Yeah.
whatever. And yeah, it's crazy. So, oh my gosh.
Well, on that note about menopause, I think we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much for being with us this week, and we hope to see everybody back next Friday for another version of Coffee Chat, 8 to 8 and West, 11 East. And Tara, I might be calling in from Florida next week, going down to visit my folks for a few days. So
Yep.
I will let you know.
And hi to Liz Winter, who joined us and I think is still with us. We'd love to know you. Who are you? It's
Thanks for
amazing.
tuning in, Liz, and keep in touch. You can find us on line at steadystatenetwork.com or follow us on socials, Steady State Network. And check out our most recent podcast episode with Dick and Pete Dreissigacker, the co-founders of Concept 2. They were pretty interesting guys to talk to.
Yep. Yep.
So everybody have yourselves a great weekend, a great week, and we'll see you later. All right, take it
High
easy.
five.